Dun, dun, dun. Hello.
Hello.
Hello and welcome.
Welcome
to
the Sweating Palms Podcast.
Woo, we got good at that real fast. Yes. That was beautiful. So, hello, this is the Sweating Palms Podcast. And from now on, I would like you to think of this podcast as a sort of monthly subscription box, except it's weekly and you're subscribing to a podcast. And in this subscription box, you are getting like a surprise. Every time you get it, it's just a new surprise. You don't know what it is. It could be any manner of story. It could be a love story. It could be a ghost story. It could be an embarrassing story, an I survived story, a story of murder or something similar, true crimey. It could just be anything. But the one thing that this subscription box has in common is that no matter what, when you open it, it is going to be bursting with anxiety and awkwardness.
It's like the can of worms that you open up that sprays in your face.
You don't know what color the worms are.
Or if they're real.
Or if they're real. But you do know that they're worms, and the worms are anxiety and just general awkwardness. So here we are, and this is Jenna.
And I'm Kara.
Yes, and we're here. It's episode 8, I think, and we're going to talk to you a little bit. I do have an announcement. Granted, this is like a week out, at least a week out, a week and a half out, but we're still in the first 30 days of publishing our first 3 episodes, and we are at, between YouTube and all of the podcast hosting services, we're at like 260 some odd downloads.
Hell yeah.
And anything over 200 downloads in 30 days puts you in the top 50% of all podcasts.
That's so cool.
Which means that we're better than half the podcasts out there, which is amazing. So cool.
It's so cool.
So fucking cool. It's maybe a small potatoes to some folks, but it is quite the accomplishment for us. We set the bar low.
We're making strides.
And here we are. So, my darling friend, do you have anything this week to get off your chest or anything that's on your mind?
Yeah, I do actually. I was thinking about this yesterday. Something that I would like to get off of my chest is that during this time of pandemic, I would just I think that it's really important to support local businesses and small businesses and local businesses. So, Spokane has a lot of these really cool, fresh markets, these small little grocery stores that sell, fresh produce and, bulk dry foods and, all these different cool things. And there's one in specific that I go to, weekly. And the dude's I don't know if we're going to make it. We might be shut down by next year. And I'm just, So I'm just I would just like to encourage people, even if it's just once a month.
Absolutely.
Try to support a local business or a small business. Just think about it. Yeah,
absolutely. I am so with you there. That's something that we focus on at work too, because I'm a marketer.
Yeah.
Is making sure that we are supporting our community and supporting these small, ma and pa kind of shops that are really struggling. Every business is taking a hit right now, but you know what? The small businesses can't afford to take that kind of hit.
Yeah.
Like the Walmarts and Targets of the world, they're going to be they're fine. And if they go away, good riddance,
Yeah. It's that whole thing where Walmart's never going to support your little kid's soccer team. Walmart doesn't give a shit about you. And these people, these small people fucking do.
This is their livelihood, and they are contributing so much to our communities. I'm so with you there. That is a wonderful thing to get off your chest.
Thanks.
Yeah. I have one too. I have a super big announcement to make.
Ooh.
I got married.
What?
Okay, I got married. We didn't make it a big deal or anything because, like COVID and like all this stuff. I mean, there's no rings or anything, but I definitely got a work wife.
Wait, what are you talking about?
I got a work wife. I didn't know it happened.
Oh my God.
Did I scare you?
Yeah, I'm like, since the last time I saw you, you and Montana got married. Like, that was like 2 weeks ago. What the fuck?
No, marriage.
Yeah, but you would for sure pull some shit like that.
I have already.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is very reminiscent.
Yeah, it worked out really well the first
Clearly.
Yeah, no. But I do have a work wife, and she is very, very sweet. I actually didn't, she let me know I was her work wife.
That's nice.
Yes. And it's actually really, really cool because we really couldn't be more different, and we got put in the same area together. And I think I knew that we were both kind of apprehensive. We're like, great, let's see how this goes. Like, this is going to be fun. And we have become so close. And she, even though I think that we have very different views on a lot of things, she's just like so kind. I told Montana, I came home and I was like, I have a work wife. And I don't know if I can say her name or not. I don't know if she wants me to say her name. So I won't, because I am respectful of my spouse's wishes.
Her identity.
Yes. But I came home and I told Montana, like, oh yeah, I have a work wife. And he's like, oh really? He's like, you guys have come a long way. I'm like, yeah, it's working out really well. I do her dishes. She refills my water. I remind her to drink her water. She reminds me every day how much she loves me, which she really does. She really does. It's just really cool. And it's a beautiful friendship. And I really appreciate her. She's a total badass. And she's like an ex-cop from Jersey.
What?
And like,
that sounds like a movie.
It gets even better.
She's actually undercover.
She's actually, I have literally told my boss that.
Really?
She came down and she's talking about how she used to be undercover. And I told my boss, I'm like, yeah, she's actually undercover right now. And my boss went, what? But she's just so sweet and thoughtful. And oh yeah, so she's ex-cop, Jersey. She has the accent. She's just super awesome. She's older than me. And she's a bodybuilder also. She's like training for a bodybuilder.
Hell
She's a total badass.
That's so cool.
She's a total badass. So yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful marriage we have.
You guys are cute.
We're cute. So that's my like get it off your chest. It's probably also what I'm grateful for. I'm
right?
Just like it's been really cool. It's been great. So yeah, we also have stories. I'm really bad at segues. I don't
Yeah, it's like trying to say goodbye.
Yeah.
You're just like awkwardly trying to walk away from the last thing you were talking about.
Yeah, I'm like, well, let me just like the curtain drops and I'm still out in front of it. I'm like, I'm just gonna, where do I go?
You trip and fall.
Trip and fall. Flat on my face, break my nose. It's fine.
Fart a little.
Oh, right. I'm going to force a segue. You remember how I'm in a cult?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm quitting the cult because it's
too much.
It's fucking ridiculous. And it was bringing me more stress than it was worth. But I really like cults. I like cults a lot.
Oh, no.
So we're going to talk about it.
Oh, fuck. That was a really good segue,
Thank
Jenna.
You.
Holy shit.
I should have started with that. Nope, it wouldn't be this podcast if I did. And so I'm going to talk about cults. I'm going to talk about one cult in particular, but before that, I'm going to give some like background, I guess, on it. So I have a multitude of sources for this. It's like freaking a 1980s article from the New York Times, the KXLY News, online psychology, freaking guide info, whatever. Fox 5, culteducation.com. The Cut, which I also think might be through New York Times. I'm not sure. A lot of sources, wanted to cover them all. So there is a very like prominent psychoanalyst in the psychoanalyst field.
Highly technical terminology happening.
Thank you. I'm a college graduate. I'm very professional and technical and experienced and knowledgeable.
Hella professional.
Yes. There's 5 ands there. Anyway, so his name, Dr. Kath, who is kind of like an expert. He is, like I said, a psychoanalyst. He's a Harvard professor, and he co-founded a nonprofit which treats former cult members. Dr. Kath defines a cult as a group of people joined together by a common ideology, fostered by a charismatic leader. And basically, like, they have an expectation of transcending life's imperfections. And I've never said this word out loud. I've only read it. Finitude.
Finitude. Let's go with that one.
I'm going to go with that.
That sounds jazzy.
I like how every episode we do this at least once, I'm pretty sure. So I feel like most people kind of ask themselves, like, how does anyone like get into a cult, or like, I would never be able to fall for that or whatever. Why people end up getting into cults is because they give this illusion of comfort. So they give you like these big promises. There's always like this really charismatic leader. They're able to answer your questions. So like, instead of how life is very gray and there's a lot of relativity, I think the leaders tend to make issues very black and white. They give you the answer. Like all your problems are solved when you do this. The answer is as simple as following these rules that I made. Or,
yeah, absolutely. And it's like, yes, take all the responsibility from me. I don't want it.
Exactly. A lot of the people who join cults have already rejected religion. Like, they were maybe brought up in a religious household and they've rejected that. It wasn't for them. So let's go for it. I didn't like what I was doing before. And they're like, perfect, we have a place for you. They target people with low self-esteem, and the thought there is that they're easier to break down and build and mold to their ideals. And then one thing that they do is, like, new recruits are just showered in love and compliments, and it's like a super positive experience. Like, you're never going to hear somebody who's like, oh, they were super mean and abusive to me and I just followed them. I thought it was a great thing. Like, they're just like so affirmed that when it does change, because it does in a cult, it becomes very manipulative and very abusive. It starts from this place of love, just like in an abusive relationship. Like, the person doesn't start out being abusive. An interesting thing is that women are more likely than men to join a cult. 70% of all cult members are women, which...
That's wild.
Yeah, and it's very, like, hotly debated, I guess, as to why that is, and I won't get into that because I have a lot to talk. The leaders are masters of manipulation and mind control. They will kind of gain your favor by doing these love bombs and really giving you that positive experience, and then they'll gradually separate their victims from their loved ones, from society, and they make them give up all their possessions so that they're reliant on the leader.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Other ways that they'll do this separating, like, they go from this loving, wonderful love bomb experience, and then they'll start being, like, publicly humiliated. So you're showered and loved, and then you're, like, brutally humiliated, like, in front of a group and just berated. And I feel like it gives, like, this kind of emotional whiplash. And it's like, oh, like, I was just having so much fun, and now I'm being made to seem like I am the lowest of the low. And I think what that does to people is it makes them feel like it's their fault.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
A lot of the times, like that public humiliation will include like self-incrimination. So I guess a lot of cult members will like have their followers like write out like their worst fears and failures, and they'll exploit those all the time. And so it's very similar, very, very similar to an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
The brainwashing, the leaders will just repeat lies time and time again in different variants of lies. So the members can't tell the truth from the cult. And so they're questioning their own reality. They become paranoid. They experience paranoia and the leaders will convince the members that everyone is against them. It's a very like us versus them mentality. So while most cult members enter willingly, they're entering thinking that they're joining this life-changing, wonderful, loving, positive group. And just it manipulates to the point where they can't even tell the difference between what is real and what they're being made to believe. But it has long-term psychological effects. And you have PTSD, you'll experience mood swings. There's like a whole list of all the long-term effects. Obviously, depression.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like hard to trust life in general after leaving a situation like that, like being such deeply like hardwired to believe something and then just to try to, you can't go back to normal after that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that leads us into my actual story, which is the River Road cult, or sometimes maybe known as the Maiden's House cult, led by Victor Barnard. So Victor Barnard is about a 58-ish-year-old Minnesotan. So he's from Minnesota. And in the 90s... he was the leader of an offshoot Christian sect that he founded, and then eventually that became the foundation of this cult. He convinced 150 people to sell their homes and move to Shepherd's Camp in Finlayson, Minnesota. I don't know how to say it. Maybe if I said it in a Minnesotan accent, it'd be better. They moved to Shepherd's Camp in Finlayson.
That sounded good.
Finlayson, Minnesota. Finlayson. I'm not sure. And so that was an isolated 85-acre campground. And at first, things were good. The families sewed their own clothing. They planted gardens. They traded goods and services. They didn't have, internet or cell phones. And so, so far, there's nothing really crazy. It sort of gives off, this Mennonite vibe. They're just trying to get away from modern, temptations or whatever the fuck religious people do. Sorry if you're religious. I apologize. Kind of.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Then, though, so nothing's crazy yet, except that, once he has them there, he tells them that, he is basically Jesus Christ.
Always.
He's basically Jesus.
Always.
That's what he represents. One psychoanalyst defined him as a traumatic narcissist because he claimed perfection and that he was Jesus Christ in the flesh. He considered himself exempt from the rules of the rest of the group. And that's super, super common of cult leaders.
Yeah.
They're all crazy psychopath narcissists.
Definitely. And a few people I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. He would walk around just in billowy robes.
Oh, God. Hell yeah.
Extravagant robes with a fucking staff.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm trying to be that.
He's a fucking wizard. Sorry. And he's whipping around in an Escalade.
Dude, he's got his wizard robes on. He's driving his Escalade. Life is good.
Put the staff in the back.
Put the staff in the back.
Oh my God. He's taking the kids on trips in a chromed out tour bus and
Oh my God.
Oh my God. And they treat him like he's the freaking Pope because the like church services weren't held in like an actual church like normal people. They were just like in the home, and Barnard would just pop in randomly and they'd just like fangirl just so hard for him. You're like, oh my God, he's at our house. He's at our house, you guys, on our day of worship.
That's so like like that's so narcissistic to be like,
Maybe I'll show up. You guys, no, please don't come to me.
Mm-hmm.
Stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come to you.
I will grace you with my presence.
Yes. Make you feel really special that I'm here. I'm sure that he talked like that too. Just so like, oh yes, I'm so calm and kind. And a fucking terrible, terrible fucking creep. So bad. Because it gets worse.
Oh boy.
Yes. It gets really fucking worse, actually. Because up to now, I'm just like, yeah, he's a douchebag who like took people's cell phone and internet, you know? Like, that's all right, whatever. If that's what people want to do. But then, in the summer of 2000, Barnard announced the names of 10 firstborn daughters.
Uh-oh.
Ages 12 to 24.
Don't like that.
It's already bad, huh? Whom he selected to live apart from their families at his private camp within the shepherd's camp, and he called them the 10 maidens. Yeah, that sounds a little fucking sketchy, doesn't it? Well, he says that these 10 maidens would be the congregation's, exemplar virgins taking a vow of celibacy in a ceremony that he called the Salt Covenant, where these 10 children, well, 12 to 24, so some of them were adults, but children, would promise that they would never marry and they would devote their lives to Barnard. And this is like where I just start to see red. Yeah, not sketchy at all. And you're probably thinking like, that's fucking crazy. Like, who's gonna let this shit happen? Well, the parents just like considered it to be an honor. And they kind of thought of it as if their daughters were like nuns. Because they trusted this guy.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah, and that's the reality of it is, like, unfortunately, they trusted this person, and that sucks.
Very charismatic, very manipulative, very...
Yeah. Well, and at this point...
brainwashed them.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they trust him, I guess?
And you have no rational person being there to be like, hey, don't do that. That's a bad idea. These are your kids. These are your children. Oh my God. Anyway, so these maidens, 2 of them in particular, we're going to talk about 2 of them. So the 2 youngest maidens were Lindsay Tornham and Jess Schweiss-Schlinsky. They were 12 and 13 at that time. I'm not sure which is which. It was very hard to get that information. They would later recount that experience of moving into the compound. They said it initially felt like a trip to summer camp. Like that's what they thought that it was.
Yeah, because they're sweet, innocent babies.
Because they are sweet, innocent babies. Yeah. This was a really hard one to research. But basically on the compound, I have a big problem. I'm going to preface this statement. I have a big problem with the way this is worded, but I'm going to tell it and then I will talk about that.
Okay.
So at this compound, they cooked, cleaned, and sewed for Barnard between scheduled days of, quote, sex with him. And by sex, they certainly mean rape.
Yeah.
Because these were children. Yeah. And he's a fucking nasty creep. Barnard compared their relationships, also disgusting, to Jesus and Mary Magdalene, quoting scripture to persuade the girls that it was okay.
After they've taken their vow of celibacy.
But he says that it doesn't count. It doesn't count. First of all, because he is Christ. He is basically the embodiment of Christ. So it doesn't count because he's a spiritual being and because they're already virgins. So it's not even sex. That is literally like basically one of his quotes
from him. Oh my God.
Disgusting. One of the girls told a Fox News reporter that he said it was his way to teach me love. My parents had never even had the talk with me. It was just terrible. And all I could think at this point, I'm like, what the fuck is going on with these parents? Like, why? Like, at some point, you have to snap out of it, right?
Yeah, ask questions, like check in, like are they not even checking in with their child and being like, oh, how's it going?
Or something. And I think they were just so far gone. I don't know. But it does say that Barnard manipulated the girl's parents in the same fashion, coercing them into giving him permission to rape their children.
Oh my God. So
I'm not going to say
like,
have
knew.
sex with because that's not, that is not what it
sex.
was. Yeah, they knew.
It's not sex when you've taken a vow of celibacy. Like,
oh my God.
I mean, none of it. Yeah.
It's terrible. So he did a similar thing with the parents. He shared with them biblical passages that he said showed he could do this to the girls, even though he started abusing both of the two girls, Jess and Lindsay, months before that. So, yeah, I think that goes to show that people have just been so manipulated and abused that they really can't distinguish like right from wrong. Like they're just so far gone. Because in my mind, it doesn't even make sense that you could in any way rationalize that.
No, and that's exactly it. It's just not a rational situation at all. Like it is, yeah.
It's terrible. So, but around 2008, like eventually people started leaving the cult, and this is a real joy here, is the reason that people started leaving the cult was 1, because they heard rumors about bankruptcy, and 2, not because of the rape of children, but because they found out that he was also like sleeping with dudes' wives.
Seriously?
Oh yeah. No,
like,
that was the last straw.
Yeah. Adultery. Not okay.
Not okay. You know what? But have 10 fucking kids in a cabin. So people started leaving. Barnard and his wife, because he has a wife too. Of course. Really? I don't know her name and I don't care to.
Yeah.
Even though I might need to look it up, and I'll get into that in just about 2 seconds, because him and his wife shipped dozens of members of the cult up to the Spokane and Cheney area.
Oh, no shit.
Spokane, Washington, Cheney, Washington area, where they continued their stuff. And actually, I believe that Jess and Lindsay were up in this area, in this Cheney, Spokane area, in one of the maidens' houses up here. So the cult unraveled soon after, from what I can gather between all these articles. Jess and Lindsay were able to leave the cult, and they came forward in 2012 accusing Barnard of sexually assaulting them for years.
Fuck yes to them. That's like,
yes.
That's incredible.
It's amazing. And these were the youngest of the maidens, quote unquote.
That's insane. So they're like the babies of the group, and they're the ones like with the fucking torch being like, let's burn this motherfucker.
Yes. And unfortunately, of course, when they first came forward, they're like, oh, there's not enough proof. There's not enough of this. It's kind of just wild speculation because there's not enough evidence. And finally, after waiting 2 years after coming forward in 2012, 2 years later, they finally charged Barnard. And a vital piece in that case was Jess's calendar, because she would mark every time that he would sexually assault her. She marked it in her calendar.
Oh my God. What a smart girl. Like, that's so fucked up that she was forced to think at that level. But what a just like smart child to take that upon herself, I guess.
Like, you know? I love that. One thing that I love about stories like this is that there is always like hope. Hearing those stories about the people who are like, I'm going to mark it down. And it's like, maybe we don't even know why you're doing it, but you're marking it down, and it makes the biggest, it's like your sense of survival kicking in.
Yeah.
And how amazing that this young girl was able to do that and keep track of that, because that was a key piece in him getting charged, because she would mark it in the corners of her calendar, and it made her charges hauntingly exact. And it was 49 counts that she was able to. So
he got charged with 49 counts on at least?
Yeah, I mean, we'll go through the rest of it too, because it's a little not great in some parts. But so her 49 counts show how terrifying Barnard's abuse really was. And it was like a day by day account. And she kept that until he wouldn't let her keep a calendar anymore.
Oh, really?
So yes. So she got 49 of them marked down, whereas Lindsay unfortunately could legally claim only 10 counts for every year of multiple assaults. But thankfully, like, she was still able to do that, and Jess's really meant the prosecutors could like charge him more aggressively.
Yeah.
So that was really, really good, and both the girls did such a great job coming forward. But Barnard was charged, and then he like took off. He just like fucking
Just disappeared.
just takes off, leaves the country. He went to Brazil. He was on the run for over a year. He was actually on the U.S. Marshal Service's most wanted list with a $25,000 reward for his arrest.
No shit.
Yeah, crazy stuff. So, in 2015, Brazilian authorities found him in a condo on Pipa Beach, and that was like in a resort town in Brazil, I guess. And he was staying there with a 33-year-old former maiden from a wealthy Brazilian family. Yeah. Okay, so he spent over a year in a Brazilian prison while U.S. officials worked to bring him back. Brazil's Supreme Court granted the U.S. custody of Bernard on the condition that his prison sentence be no more than 30 years.
Like, I just don't understand how that's possible. Like, how can you make that a condition?
Yeah. Like, you were a cult. You convinced 150, you brainwashed 150 people, and then freaking assaulted their children and like unimaginable, just countless unimaginable things.
Yeah, and you're so weak that you can't even possibly take responsibility for any of it. Well, I mean, yeah, he's like a fucking narcissist. Like, he's not responsible. Like,
yeah. And
nothing he did was wrong.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure why, because this was Brazil, the Supreme Court, and they were saying, like, we're not going to extradite this guy, like, unless you promise that, like, his sentence will be no more than 30 years. I'm like, why do you give a shit?
Yeah.
Send him back and let him face his shit. Like,
he's not doing anything for you.
Yeah. And like, unless you want, we're doing you a favor. Do you want Colts? Because this is how you get Colts.
This is how you get Colts.
Oh, God.
You left the fucking weirdos out. Now you got Colts.
Now you got Colts. Look at this.
How you like them apples?
You like them apples? Hopefully as much as you like the Colts.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the articles say pleaded, but I always want to say pled. He pled guilty and only received 30 years on 2 counts of felony sexual assault out of the 49 documented by Jess and the, however many per year, 10 counts per year from Lindsay. Only 2 of those landed. So he got...
Sorry. It's just like, how does that even work that it's like, I'll agree to 2 of those? It just doesn't even make sense. Like, how can you be charged for only 2 out of
over
however
50
fucking many? Yeah.
It's, insane. And I mean, I guess that I'm glad that he was actually sentenced 30, because I feel like all too often we hear stories about rapists and child predators they're like, oh, here's a slap on the wrist and some probate. Here's 18 months.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my fucking God.
And
yeah.
It's terrible and disgusting. So I'm like, thank goodness.
Thank Glob.
Thank Glob that he actually got like the 30 years.
Yeah, he's still in jail. That's good.
Yeah, but wait, there's more. Because I think that's absolutely fucking ridiculous. I'm like, the 2 charges. But he just got fucked up in prison by another inmate just last year.
No shit.
Oh, yeah. They punctured his lung and gave him like a brain injury. So, like, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's one thing I can say. Like, thank you, prison inmates who are not disgusting, who also hate child predators and will fuck them up.
Yeah, seriously. Like, at least you're doing justice where justice was not served.
No kidding. Thank you very much, sir. And he said in the article, by the way, shout out guy. I have no idea what his name is because, who knows what he did really. But he said he has no regrets. And I'm like, goddamn right you don't.
Yeah.
So good for him. And then Lindsay, one of our little sweet baby angels. Sorry, we're plagiarizing MFM. We're murdering those. I promise we're not trying to steal their stuff. It's
It
become a part
becomes
of the
your
language.
second language.
Yeah. So this sweet, darling girl, Lindsay, spoke out in I say that, she's older than me. Spoke out in 2017 because she was worried that the cult was still operating out of the greater Spokane area because she did live in a maiden's house in Cheney, Washington.
Wild.
Yeah. And actually, like, Cheney is a small town, let me tell you. So, like, there are names listed that, like, people know these names. Cheney is a small town.
Yeah.
But these girls, like, I guess I'll just end it on saying that, like, these girls were so strong to come forward. Like, I can't even begin to imagine how difficult that must be, and the realization, like, realizing what you were a part of. And that, like, that wasn't your normal, especially because you were in it as a child. That was your
world. Yeah.
And so to be so strong to come forward, and they were the youngest of the maidens, and that is ultimately the reason that he is behind bars today. They're such badasses. And, like, I'm just very happy to be able to tell their story. And unfortunately, the really sad part of this story is that Jess this year took her own life after, years of dealing with this. And that was heartbreaking to read. And I think it
says a lot about it.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important thing to say, because that is a very harsh reality. For survivors of these situations, there is not adequate resources for them. This is something I hear about so fucking much. Survivors of these kinds of situations they are not offered the fucking therapy that they need.
Yeah.
They're not offered assistance. Like, put yourself in that position. Yeah, like, how do I just live a normal life after being subjected to years of horrible abuse and brainwashing? That's not acceptable. It's not acceptable to expect people to be able to do that. And there needs to be more assistance for people in these kinds of situations. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's very heartbreaking, and I'm very, very, very glad to hear that he is behind bars with a brain injury and a fucking punctured lung. Bitch. Yes. And that is the story of the River Road cult / Maiden's House cult and the survivors of that cult. Good job, Jenna. That was a tough one.
That was a tough one. Also I love cults. This was a really rough one to start off with, though, because it involves some extra touchy subjects for sure. Yeah. That's super interesting that it's, associated with the Spokane area. Yeah. I don't really know anything about cults from our area. There's more. Oh, you gotta fill me in, because I don't know about this shit. I'm very much looking forward to that. I accidentally did research on another cult while I was researching this one. And I was like, damn, I didn't know this is so juicy. And then I was like, oh, this is a different cult. So next time we record, I'll probably do another cult, because I like it. Let's roll with it. Yeah. All right. So it's finally my time to step away from the mic. Finally. And it is time for Kara's story. I'm here for it. Kara's story. Okay. So the story that I'm going to tell today is, I don't know, I'm sure you remember this, when I wrecked on my skateboard. Oh, downhill? Yeah. All the road rash? Yeah. Sure. Yeah, okay. And actually, so I want to preface this by saying that I kind of had this idea that I want to start eventually. I kind of want to do an ongoing series of skateboarding stories, because I was at the skate park talking to one of Tal's friends who's an excellent skateboarder, and he was telling me this story from when he was younger that was just insane. And any skateboarder that you talk to
is going to have just a plethora of these kinds of stories to tell you. And I was like, fuck, like this is a thing that needs to happen. Like,
sure,
I want to share these stories because skateboarders will just do the most
Craziest
fucking insane shit. Yeah. They don't care. Like, well, they're just very excited about the realm of possibilities, you know?
Absolutely. Before you get into it, I would like to give maybe our listeners a little bit of background about you and why you spend so much time at the skate park. What do you do at the skate park?
Well, I actually skate on quads.
Yes.
Yeah, I roller skate.
You roller skate? Why do you roller skate, Kara?
Because I play roller derby.
Right?
That's my big heart. Yeah.
Okay. You play roller derby. Interesting. I don't think I knew this about you. What's your derby name again?
Kara Kraken Skulls Rogers.
Okay, cool. And also, you don't only just play roller derby and go to the skate park and skate on your quads. You also do you coach?
Yes, I do. I coach. I also I am a co-coach to the Cherry Bomb Brawlers junior roller derby team. So
junior,
that means children that play roller derby, which is so fucking tight.
That's
like
super cool.
Yeah.
How old? So children, like what ages are we talking here? Children.
So like when it started, it was like 10 to 18. So I mean, that's a pretty wide age range, but just, yeah, imagine this group of fucking 10-year-old badass that are willing to strap skates to their feet and go just fucking attack people, you know?
It's amazing.
It's so cool. And then now we have this like little team. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say little, but younger team that is like fucking 4 to like 9-year-olds. Yeah. And yeah. So skating is a very big and very happy part of my life. And since COVID has been happening, roller derby is kind of canceled right now. So I've been going to the skate park a lot more and really enjoying that. And so it's been bringing up some memories about skateboarding, actually, because I used to skateboard a lot.
Longboard. A lot, too. I feel like
I didn't ride a longboard, but it wasn't what I rode wasn't like a street skate. It wasn't like a trick deck, like when you think of a skateboarder. What I rode was like a Santa Cruz board. So it's this short, fat board. It's kind of like in between the street skate and a longboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am picturing right now in my mind a young 17-year-old, 18-year-old Kara carrying around this not quite a skateboard, not quite a longboard, every fucking where you went. Every goddamn where you went. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah. I always had those like dirt spots on my forearm from my wheels. Oh, I love that. That's like such a happy thing to me to see, is just like you get these like 2 dirty spots on your arm from where your wheels sit, you know? Yeah. And that was a cool thing, because that was actually a board that I had this friend so all my friends skateboarded.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, my best friend at the time was an amazing longboarder, a fearless, just insane longboarding chick who would just put all the dudes to shame. Like, she would just like bomb hills everywhere. Like, she was just dancing. It was amazing. You know, and I had this friend who was a skateboarder, and I told him like, oh, like I've tried skateboarding before. I suck at it. I think it's really cool. I'd love to be able to do it. And he was kind of just like, here, have this board, learn how to skate. And that's the board that I learned. And it was so cool, because I got on it and I had it. And that day that he gave me that board, we went through this huge skate all over downtown Spokane and back to this house. And like, I was able to like keep up with them pretty decently, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was the point where like after that, I just started skating all of the time. And, you know, I wasn't like doing tricks. I wasn't doing like ollies and stuff. I wasn't super into that side of it. It was more just.
I am literally picturing it. I just have to share. that I am literally picturing, I remember so vividly, like little dreadhead Kara, on her like zigging and zagging down the road.
Exactly.
And just like you looked so peaceful and in the zone. I like have this beautiful like picture in my mind of you, and you just looked so happy and content.
Yeah, and that was really like that was my skateboarding. Like I wasn't necessarily into bombing hills. I wasn't necessarily into doing tricks, and I didn't really want to go to the skate park. I just was like, I want to fucking cruise. Like I just want to surf pavement and just like enjoy this like wobble, like wavy thing that I get to do. Like it feels good on my feet and on my body, and I like it, you know?
Yes.
But so through like hanging out with this friend, like I definitely like I did get into bombing hills a little bit. Like we skated like the Bank of America parking garage, which is like it's like 4 or 5 floors, you know, and so you start at the top and you skate to the bottom and out like down the ramp onto the street kind of deal. And like there were like a couple of hills that, you know, she taught me how to like carve down a hill, and I understood that. And, you know, I have like a very vivid memory of her talking to me about speed wobbles. So speed wobbles are like you're skating and you're going too fast and your board starts to wobble. And she was like, when you get speed wobbles, you need to like bear down on your board. Like you need to put more pressure onto your board to even it out. And so that comes into play a little bit later in my story. Yeah. So, okay. So this story, I actually have like a very specific date because this was when Facebook existed, and there's some really great photos. So this happened in June of 2012. So this would have been a year after I graduated, which is funny because I was actually, as I was remembering this story, I was thinking about your dream of that we had talked about previously recently, that you had this dream of me dying and it was really intense. And I was like, oh, like, I wonder the correlation there a little bit, actually.
That's so funny. I was about to bring that up
really
just a second ago when you're like, oh, the hill. And I was like, oh, I remember you telling me this after I had this dream that you fucking died.
Oh,
like I called you.
God.
I'm pretty sure that's when you told me. You're like, yeah, I really fucked myself up.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. No. And so when you just recently talked to me about that dream, I was like, oh, I don't really remember. And then when I remembered this story, I was like, wait, I feel like I talked to Jenna about, like, I feel like we had that conversation. Like I'm recalling, and this is probably why my brain is so fucking fuzzy. You know, everything's a little bit hazy for me.
Sure. I wonder why.
Well, that and the drugs, but stay away from cocaine, children.
Do not do the cocaines, please.
All right. So yeah, so this is June of 2012. I've been skating for like maybe like a year or something, but doing it like pretty heavily, really, like just religiously. Like it's something that I really was a big part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So this specific day, I'm with my good buddy allll, and I know she won't mind me using her name. And it's just like a sunny day, and we're just hanging out and we're skating around this area that she lives in. And man, this is like a common theme in these stories that I have, but we come to this hill and it doesn't look that big to me. It looks like the same size of hill that I've skated before. And so I'm like, yo, check this out. Let's skate it. I'm like, let's do it right now, you know? And Allie's like looking at it and she's like, I don't know about that. That hill looks pretty big. And I'm like already going, like, I'm like, it's fine. It's okay. Look, it's fine. I'm already going down the hill, you know? And so I'm going down the hill and I'm realizing this hill is a lot longer and steeper than I thought. And the fact that it's longer is kind of where I think I fucked up, because I just like, I gained so much speed and wasn't able to like cut my momentum and like carve. Like I was trying to carve, but I already had too much speed and like wasn't
you didn't have that flat ground. You were able to sustain that speed over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And so that's kind of really where I fucked up. And so I almost made it down the fucking hill. I'll say that. Like, I almost got there. But so I'm like almost to the bottom of the hill and I start getting speed wobbles, like really, really bad. And I remember what my friend had said to me, and I try to like do that. I'm like, all right, like I got to do something. This is not going well. And I try to bear down on my board, and it just like throws me into the air. And I just like, I absolutely remember the feeling of just like, it was like I was just jumping off of a diving board.
Yeah.
And I was just flying through the air, and I threw up my hands to try to cover my face. And I just crashed down onto the pavement and just skidded on my arms and then onto my face. Like, I landed like total like scorpion style, like arms, face, skidding across pavement, asphalt. And then I black out. And this is a really interesting part to me, because when I black out, it's like I have this infinite amount of dreams. I remember what happened to me when I blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
So in these dreams, I'm in so it's like the dreams, it's like looking at shattered glass. There's like an infinite amount of dreams. It's like this fractalation of dreams. And in all of these dreams, I am standing in a cave. And like that specific part actually recently became very important to me, because actually like when my dad died, I had this dream about him that was really significant, where I was standing in a cave talking to him. So like that detail actually became very interesting to me, like this cave portion. Yeah. But so I'm standing in a cave with my skateboard and I'm talking to someone, but I don't know who. I can only see myself and my skateboard. And I'm telling this person, I have to go and skate this hill. I'm leaving. Bye. And like, that's it. That's the dream. And I don't like, that's so interesting and strange in so many levels that I can't comprehend, you know?
Yeah.
So I wake up from this dream and I'm laying in a pool of my own blood, like a legitimate like pool. And I remember like the warm, just liquid everywhere. And I stand up and there's just like blood pouring down, you know, like coming out of my head or whatever. Like I just see blood just dripping down onto my body. And time definitely gets like weird at this point. Obviously, like I am just rushed with adrenaline and probably have a very serious concussion. I don't know, but I can remember like looking up and seeing Allie screaming and running down the hill. And like Allie would later tell me that she thought I died. Like when I fell and I didn't get back up, that she thought I was dead because, you know, I fell and then I just was laying there. And so she's like running down the hill screaming because she had thought she just watched her friend die. And then this is an interesting detail. I remember I'm standing in front of a house and a woman like comes out of her house and sees me and then just gets into her car and drives away.
What?
And I'm like, right? I was like an 18, 19-year-old girl, like literally just like dripping blood. Like you probably just watched this happen and you're just going to get in your car and drive away. And like what a bystander, you know?
Oh, she's moving, so it's fine. I'm going to go to Target now.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Target and shop away all my feelings.
Consumerism.
Yeah, the fucking bystander effect. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
But it just, that part, like I think about it and I'm like,
that is crazy. I don't know. I don't mean to be like messing up your story right now or anything, but it is really funny actually, because when I was talking to you a couple weeks ago about the dream that I'd had when I died, and I was literally bawling in the morning, and I called you and I remember you being like, no, like, yeah, that's crazy. I'm glad. Thank you for thinking of me. Like, I'm doing okay. And then I remember you saying, you're like, actually, I just had this really crazy thing happening. And you told me this story. And as you started telling this story today, I started thinking, I'm like, yes, that's right. That's like the same time that I had this dream.
God.
Which is just crazy. It's just crazy to me.
That's super weird. That's really crazy. You knew some shit. It's like one of those weird things where like obviously in some other dimension I did die, I guess.
That is crazy. Well, it's so terrifying because I remember every detail of this. I'm like, yeah, I remember you being with this friend Allie who I'd heard about before back in the day. And I obviously knew the other friend, who was a total badass. And I remember you telling me, you're like, it was just a way bigger hill than I'd ever been on. And I just started wobbling and I just like flew off my board and like just really, I remember seeing the photos on Facebook. I don't know. It's so funny because I've always just felt this connection with you. For some odd reason, like ever since I met you, I'm like, this girl is like a special girl.
Oh.
And I know her. And then like after you left and like that dream that I'd had, which ultimately led to me naming my daughter after you. Cause I'm like, even if me and her, like we aren't super close, we don't hang out really very much. But I'm like, this person means something to me. And now we're doing a fucking podcast together. So
that's so tight.
It's pretty cool.
We're doing pretty good for being fucking classmates at Havermill.
Yeah. It's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to know you. So, and I'm very sorry to totally uproot your story.
That was a perfect what is the word I'm trying to think of? That was a perfect
Out? Are you done with your story?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm just like stuck on trying to remember this word.
I was wondering because I'm like, are you trying to say you're done with your story and it was a perfect outro? Or are you trying to say
No. I just really enjoyed what you just said. That's all I'm trying to say.
Oh, you
That's
mean
it.
It was cute and gushy?
It was cute. I loved it. Yeah. That like literally like made me feel like warm in my heart.
Yeah. Well, I love you. I do love you very much. I've always held you in very high regard, despite like us not being the closest.
Yeah.
You're somebody who is very, very special to me.
Oh,
So,
I love you, Jenna.
I love you very much.
You're a good person.
Okay. Enough with that shit.
Okay, I'll get back to the blood.
Let's hear about it. Bleeding from your face and your arms and your eyes and your ears and wherever.
Yeah, so this part gets pretty hazy because basically Allie runs down the hill and comes to me and she's like, what the fuck? And I'm like, I don't know. And then we just walk back to her house and we get to her house and she tries to like, obviously she's like, you should go to a hospital. And I just like, I have this weird thing about doctors where I just like, I won't go. Like, I just won't go. And so I'm like, no, I'm fine. And she tries to like clean up my wounds. And then I just like drove myself home.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And so at this point, it's like evening time. It's like dusk. It's starting to get dark. I get out of my car and my mom is like coming out of the house at the exact time that I'm getting out of my car. I love this, that like, this is just like a really common thing in my stories where I just like fuck with my mom so hard.
Oh my God. I like it.
Okay, so I get out of my car and I just like, I know what's about to happen and I think it's funny. And so I get out of my car and I just have this really big shit-eating smile as I walk across the grass towards my mom. And my mom, at first she's like, hi, and she's looking at me and I'm just smiling at her and I'm not saying anything. And so as I'm getting closer to her, she's like, she's just like trying to figure out like why, like what is going on.
What's
like
off here?
I have the smile on my face. That means I did something and I'm not saying anything. So she's like trying really hard to figure out what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
And then I get closer and she can start to tell that there's something wrong with me. And so here's the thing is that like I look like a fucking zombie.
Oh
like
my God.
The flesh was like torn off of my left forearm. on my left shoulder, like it's just like exposed bleeding skin. The whole left side of my face was like torn off. Like
I remember.
Yeah, and my left eye was full of blood. Like it was totally like full of blood. So I look like a fucking zombie. And I like get close enough to my mom that she can actually see me, and she just screams. Like she just lets out this like, "Ah!" Like, what is wrong? She thought I got in a car accident or something terrible. And then, she also is like, you need to go to a hospital. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I swear it's fine.
It's okay.
No big deal, Mom. And so, she also like tries to like clean me up a bit. And I just like, I go to bed. Like I just went to bed.
Sounds right.
And then I wake up in the morning and there's like a pool of pus leaking out of my arm. Like just there's so much pus. And so I'm like, okay, like let's go to the doctor. And so my mom takes me to urgent care and we get in to see the doctor. And this poor guy is just like, you need to go to the ER. You might need skin grafts. And I was like, oh my fuck. Like I just like did not comprehend how like serious the injuries were at all. And this guy was like, you're fucking stupid. Why are you here wasting your time?
Right.
And so then my mom drives me to the ER and I like am admitted immediately. Like I walk in and I did not have to wait at all. I feel like in a way is like, I just want to say is unfortunate because obviously like there are a lot of people who have had like much more serious things happening to them who have had to wait anyways.
Absolutely. Yeah, have to wait hours and hours.
Yeah.
I also think like don't discount. I think that you like I'm a very similar person, and so I'm thinking that you also are probably this way, that you're not giving yourself kind of enough like you are also important. You went to the fucking urgent care and they're like, why are you fucking here? Go the fuck away. You have some serious shit going on. Like, you are also worthy. Like, I hope you understand that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So while like certainly there are definitely times where being in the ER, you're like, yeah, this person's like got stabbed. Can we get them in?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Why are they waiting 5 hours to get treated?
Yeah.
Certainly, like, I know that you felt like maybe you shouldn't have gone in before other people. But it sounds like it's a good thing you did.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, I'm admitted like immediately, which is obviously the only time that this happened in my life. And yeah, they take me up into a room and they're like, okay, you should have had stitches in your chin, but it's already started to heal, so we can't do that. But we need to like scrub out your wounds and get them cleaned up. And I'm like, oh no, like absolutely fucking not.
Let's debrief these.
Yeah. But then they put me on this Dilaudid drip, which is like, imagine like morphine or something like that. So I was like totally kosher, and they just fucking started scrubbing away. And I just sat there and was like, wow, I don't feel anything.
Oh my God, of course you did.
And I was literally just sitting there and I was like watching them scrub away at these like horrific injuries. And I was just like, this is hilarious because it doesn't hurt at all. And like I would just be writhing in pain and screaming and crying if I could feel that, Yeah. And so after that, I basically just spent the next like month taking a lot of hydros, which really fucked my shit up. I would like to say I didn't necessarily enjoy it a lot. There was like this point where I couldn't really tell the difference in between reality and like being asleep. Like I just felt like I was dreaming all the time, and shit got like really weird for me. And yeah, just like trying to tend to these wounds. And thankfully, they all healed up really well. I was so surprised actually, because my face, I just have like a little scar on my chin and just like this weird kind of like blotchy area. But like you can't really tell. You can only really see it on my arm. It's funny. People sometimes will like ask me like, oh, is that a burn? And I'm like, no.
Nope, just fucked myself up real good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't look too deformed.
Just the natural deformity I already had.
I just assume when I see you that you're going to be like, hey, you guys.
That's what I do.
I know.
Oh my God.
No, you're not deformed in the least. So you made it out pretty freaking well in the end.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited then to hear more of your skate stories. So will you be telling other people's skate stories?
Yeah, that's my hope. There's like 2 people I have in mind currently that I've already reached out to that are fucking amazing skaters and total fucking hoodlums.
My favorite.
Yes. And so I'm really hoping to get their stories from them and be able to share them later in later episodes. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's it, huh? I feel like we've only been recording for half an hour, but it's probably been 3.
Yeah, it's gone by very quickly.
It's gone by so fast. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for that story. Do you have something quick that you're grateful for?
Yeah, just I'm feeling really grateful for the community that I have, like my personal community that I have, just reflecting recently on the fact that I don't feel that I've always had that. And I'm just very fucking thankful to have a group of people that are rooting for me in my life and that like just look out for me. That's very much something to be grateful for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm happy that you have that.
Thanks.
That makes me happy for you. I'm grateful for, I had so many things I was grateful for, truly. I feel the same way. The support system's wonderful. I'm very grateful, obviously, for my work wife and for you. I'm always, always so happy to record with you. Not only to record with you, just to know you. I'm just so happy that we have a reason to get together.
Yeah.
It makes me really happy.
Yeah, me too.
So, yeah, that's it. And that's it, huh?
Yeah, we'll catch you later.
We'll catch you later. Wait a minute. France?
Oh.
We need to talk about France for a second.
Oh.
Okay, I see you. You 6 downloads. I see you. And I'm pretty sure you're one listener. I'm pretty sure you're one listener in France. So France, and every other listener, if you're not my mom or Kara's mom or Montana's family, even if you are, please, feel free to tell your own stories. I'd really like to know who's listening. I'd like to know more about who you are. This is overall a podcast about human connection and France. If you listen to all of the episodes, then you know what we're looking for. I just want to get to know you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us one of your sweating palm stories. You can email us. Please email us. You want to know what the email is? I'm going to tell you at least twice. It is sweatingpalmspod@gmail.com. What was that, Jenna? Let me tell you again. It was sweatingpalmspod@gmail.com. Oh, and if we want to find you someplace else, oh, well, if you want to find us someplace else, Jenna.
I don't need to be here.
I was just thinking I could probably do this. Oh, well, Jenna, where else can we find you? Oh, well, let me tell you where else you can find me. Oh, yes, please do. All right. Well, hold on. Wait, am I Minnesotan? Who's Minnesotan? Anyway, you can find us at Sweating Palms Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I didn't start with YouTube this time because I tend to glitch out a little bit. Okay, so then you can also find us on the Twitters. You can find us there tweeting away at sweating_palms. And don't forget to tune in every Friday for new episodes. You can find us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Kara, where else are we? Stitcher. And the other places, Deezer, all that good stuff. We're still not on freaking iHeartRadio because they're bitches. I mean, they're not bitches. We want to be on there real bad. But we're not on there for some reason still. Anyways, that's it.
Good job, Jenna.
Thanks. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Bye.
I'm so sweaty.
Oh, God. Me fucking too, dude. I need to turn this AC back on. Let's get out of here. Bye.